Hi, everybody. Hopefully you all can hear me okay. Welcome to City Market's Blueberry Lavender Pie live stream. Super excited to have you all tuning in with us. My name's Carrie. I am City Market's Assistant Outreach and Education Manager. I'm the one who's been sending you all of the emails. So this is what I look like, since you've most likely just seen me through an email. Super excited to have you all tuning in tonight. This is probably the only time that you'll see me on camera. I'll be behind the scenes after this. We do have a chat box for the event, so at any point during tonight's live stream, if you have questions, comments, things that you want to share, you can type it into that chat box. I'll be monitoring that, and I can either answer it if it's something I can answer, or I will ask it of our fabulous instructor for the evening. If you're joining us a little bit late, you can always hit live. It's down at the bottom, close to the play pause button, and that will catch you up to where we are rather than making you start watching from the very beginning, and then you can always go back and watch this at a later date. We are going to record this, and it will be released on our website at a later date. I'll send an email out to everybody who was signed up when that goes live. I think that's it from me. I'll send a survey out tomorrow. Would love to know thoughts on the class, ideas for other live streams that you'd like to see from us. And when I go behind the scenes, it would be great if people can put where they're watching from into that chat box. I'll put a little announcement into it so you can see where that pops up on your screen. But it's fun to know where people are tuning in from, since we're getting people from outside the Burlington, Vermont area. I think without further ado, I'll turn things over to our instructor for the evening, Gary. Gary, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Hi, I'm Gary Stuard, the pie guy, and been enjoying doing these. It's now almost a year since I started working, doing the classes on pies. And this is for tonight. We'll be doing my Lavender Blueberry Pie. Even though now it's September the 1st, and if nothing like Texas, where my husband and I are from, thank goodness. But yes, fall is coming, but summer fruits are still out there. Down in on the floor of our store in the produce section, we have peaches, nectarines, Italian prune plums have arrived, which they make a wonderful pie. We still have raspberries and other fruits, and we have blueberries, which I love. Even when I was a little kid, I wanted blueberries because, well, I love the color blue. And of course, blueberries were not common down in Texas back in the 60s, even the early 70s. So I don't think my mother ever made a blueberry pie, but I was always enamored of it. I remember even as a little kid, I drew a piece of blueberry pie with crayons to say, oh yeah, I have blueberry pie. So, but this will taste better than crayon and paper for sure. So, and I imagine we'll have blueberries for a while. So this is the last of the summer pies. So again, we're going to go through making the crust. And again, I hope for those who have been watching these classes, the pie guy, that you've had time to practice making pies on your own using the pie recipe, pie crust recipe that I have provided for this class, for these classes. And so that's where we're going to start. But first, I just want you to see what we're going to be making. So I always bake a pie before coming here so people can see, oh, this is what it will look like, or close to it. And the design, I really didn't, set out to do. I just put slits in the pie. And of course, you let the fruit cook till it starts bubbling. And it's also thick, it's not runny, and which is a challenge with fruit pies. But so this is what we're going to try out at the end.
A little bit of TV magic. Always got to have one made ahead of time when you're baking.
Right, and it smells of blueberries and lavender. And for those who wonder, well, how did you come up with lavender blueberry? And that seems so odd or so unusual. And it was a number of years ago. I can't even remember how long ago, maybe 5 years ago. And down in Texas, some of you may have heard of HEB stores, which are just in Texas. And they're a great store and they're a great employer. But they also have like super stores, which were called, let's see, what was it? Something like City Market. And they had everything. Central Market, that's it, Central Market. And their stores were designed to where it was like a maze, and it would direct you from produce to meat and seafood, to groceries, to beer and wine, bakery, I mean, dairy, the whole shebang. And I was going through the section where it was salad dressings and vinaigrettes, and I walked by and I saw one that had lavender blueberry vinaigrette, and I thought, wow, that would be great on a salad. And then I thought, well, I love blueberries, and I have had lavender ice cream and then lavender icing on a very nice cake that someone let me have a piece of. And I thought, well, why not give it a shot? I didn't see any recipe for it. And so, you know, it's just with blueberry pies, I always would have, of course, sugar, a thickener, and some lemon juice. And so I just use dried lavender blossoms. You could use essential oil of lavender, but you would have to use very, like 1 drop.
And
because
food
it's
grade.
so food grade too.
Yeah.
You know, it's extremely strong. So you just use dried lavender, and I did it to taste. Of course, you don't want it, you know, tasting like a shampoo or soap bar, but just enough you get a little bit of the taste, and it just blew my socks off. And luckily, when I submitted it to a local pie competition down in Dallas, my pie got first place for fruit pies. So,
Nice.
So that will be cool. So let's get started with making the pie crust. And again, don't let people tell you, oh, it's too difficult to make pie crust. I mean, baloney. No, it's not. There are just some simple rules to go by when you're making pie crust. This one is 2.5 cups. Also, I think it's important, and I've always said this when I have done these classes, is that everything should be cold. Okay.
Miriam says that's a wonderful looking pie of your finished one.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. That's 1 cup. I will do half of that. Thank you. I mean, and I will talk about the glaze that I used for it. You know, if we're going to be doing something special like this, why not go whole hog, you know, make it as attractive as possible. So, but as for making the pie dough, I keep my flour in the freezer. I keep my sugar in the freezer. If I was in Texas, I would have my metal bowl in the freezer because, you know, it gets so hot down there. Here is not that important unless you don't have air conditioning in your kitchen.
It's a very nice cool day here.
Yeah, it's very nice. And then everything else I put in the refrigerator, the butter, the shortening, because you want the butter fats from the butter, the shortening, or lard, if you use lard, to not just melt quickly, because then you'll get a tough, gummy pie. You want individual pockets of the butter fat and the shortening. So then you get a flaky crust, and that's what we want. So we have 2.5 cups of, I love King Arthur, and this is our their organic flour. Very nice. And I have it down 3 teaspoons, but I have a sweet tooth, and I'm going to put 4 in, just for the heck of it. Let's see here. What do we have?
Are we missing a teaspoon in there?
I think so. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that.
I think that's a tablespoon.
Oh, that is the tablespoon.
There's probably a half teaspoon in there.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, here we go. No, that's fine. So, let's see.
We have one person joining us from Vermont, Fairfield. No one else has posted yet where they're watching from, but we do have some other people logged on. So hello to our Vermont friend.
And we've had folks from California, Texas, Kansas,
Canada. Had a lot of Canadian
Canada.
friends joining us. Yep.
Okay, that is about 4 teaspoons right there. And salt.
Do you write your recipes for kosher salt or for the finer table salt?
You can, I usually do it with finer salt because I don't want to encounter in my sweet dessert a chunk of salt.
Big flake, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the finer is, the better.
We have Essex Junction, Vermont, so it's a very Vermont crowd today.
Yay, well, good. Hello, Vermonters. And some of you may not know, but my husband, Fred, who is in the audience, we're both from Texas. And we love our new home. We've been here, it's almost 3 years that we've been here. So we really love it here. And given how dreadfully hot it was in Texas, like over a month long of 100 plus degree temperatures, this has been heaven. So now people do different ways of cutting in the butter. Some people do it in chunks initially. That's what I did because that's what the cookbook said. But then I decided, this looks like it's so much easier, and it's easier to work in because, when you have little chunks, it just takes a while to cut it into the flour. So I'm going to have 1 stick of butter, which is half a cup.
Got Burlington, Vermont, and we have St. Paul, Minnesota. So we have our first.
Hey, St. Paul, thank you for coming.
This has kind of been the silver lining of having to do virtual classes is reaching people across the country and outside of the country too.
Yeah, I've been very surprised and very pleased that we get people from all over the place. That is just fascinating. And sort of like building up the community of pie. And I've said before, many times, every time I've done the class, is that one of the things about cooking, not just pies, but cooking in general, but there's just something about desserts. And I guess especially about pies, they're so homey. And they really invite a sense of sharing and community, And I've been an activist and organizer for over 30 plus years, and food just brings people together. And so it's just like with my mom and her mother, when I encountered their baked goods, it was just particularly their pies. They just looked so beautiful. They were so inviting, and you just could feel the love that was in their baking. And of course, all their meals. But there's just something about a pie that, is beautiful, fresh from the oven, and they taste so good. You know, their pies just screamed out love, and that's a beautiful thing. Now, with this, you could use your hands, or you could use this. I kind of like doing it with my hands because it's just like getting in it. It's like people love being in the garden. They love their hands in the soil. Well, flour is my soil, but we can do it this way. And I work it in to where I can have, this is where I'm going to go back to using my hands, but little balls. You want to have like pea-sized balls of butterfat, okay? Or very, very coarse meal kind of consistency to your base for your the base for your pastry, the dough. So anyway, I'm working that in.
Have someone tuning in from Los Angeles.
Hey, Los Angeles.
Cooler days in Kentucky, California.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I heard that it's a huge heat wave hitting California. Our condolences, being a son of Texas, we had, I remember 114-degree days.
No, thank you.
With 118-degree heat index. And my husband and I, we don't miss it at all. But when you have something like this, you can say, well, right now we're virtually in Maine or Vermont somewhere eating a blueberry pie. So that's one way to escape.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think I like the feel of that. Now I need to put in half a cup of chilled shortening. Thank you. And I prefer using non-hydrogenated. Oops.
I think we have the Spectrum brands tonight, correct?
Yes.
The brand that you can look for if you're looking for the.
Yeah, I grew up with Crisco. And I guess that is available up here too. In the South, yes, definitely Crisco. And spoon.
That one right there, yep.
Thank you. Yeah, my mom used Crisco. Her mom used Crisco. And of course, desserts maybe are not, well, they're emotionally healthy. I'll say that.
Good for the soul.
And it's good for the soul and the taste buds. And it's okay to do it once in a while, not all the time. But when you do it, it should be homemade. And where you can show your love. And everything homemade just tastes better. I mean, it just does. It's fresh from the oven. And again, you can just taste the immediacy of it. And you can taste the love. Well, at least I feel like you can. So I put in maybe just a little bit above half of the cup, though it wasn't completely filled with shortening. And I'm just going to, use this pastry cutter and work the shortening in until I see, little pea size, little peas of shortening.
Is this a recipe that you can double easily, or is it better to make multiple batches than?
You can double it. Okay. I do it all the time.
Save some in the freezer for later?
Yes, you can. Though pie dough, I kind of think you have to use it like the very next day, because if you're working with your hands in it, then, it's just, after a while, it starts turning, if you know what I mean.
Freeze it, though?
Yes, you can freeze it. By all means, freeze it. And then the day before, either put it in the refrigerator if you're going to be baking in the afternoon, or just set it outside overnight and it will be ready.
Great.
Okay, so I would say freeze it if you're not going to use the leftover dough like next day. Just freeze the pastry dough, and then when you need it, just take it out the night before, and there you are, voila. And I've done that quite a bit too. So I think you can see I have little P's of shortening here. I may work that just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Okay, now it's time.
Well,
Sorry about that
they've all
noise.
woven themselves together.
Okay, and usually I use about a cup of ice water, but I don't, and you don't pour it all in at once, because then you'll just have a wet, sloppy, gummy mess. So I just sprinkle a little bit at a time, and then I work it in, like so. Because sometimes, I guess it's depending on the weather, you may need to use a little more water or a little less. I guess that depends on how the humidity is. So you just do a little bit at a time. So you let the water gradually get into the flour and just kind of work it in. See how easy it is? It's easy.
This might be controversial. How do you feel about food processor pie dough?
You can do it. I just grew up the old-fashioned way, and I just kind of like it because I feel more connected to my mom and her mom, the old-fashioned way, how they did it. I just kind of like that. And the immersiveness of it. I mean, it's like you're really in it, and I like that. But, if people have time constraints, and a lot of people do, then you can do that. Just, get a nice cookbook on pie making, and they have instructions. And maybe I need to add that the next time, how to use a mixer.
How do you know when to stop with the water? What are you looking for? What you were describing?
When the mixture starts clumping, okay? And as you can see, can you see that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts clumping. I don't want it super sticky. Really, I don't want, I want it just wet enough that it starts clumping naturally. And then I can start doing it with my hands. So it's not all wet, but the more I work it, it starts spreading the moisture. So I don't have to use all the water.
This is why I make food or pie dough in my food processor. I have very warm hands, and I can't do this because I melt all the butter.
Right, so it kind of, each person has to figure out what works best for them.
We have someone asking, can you use your hands to incorporate the water rather than the fork? Or will it get really messy?
You can. I just kind of, you can give it a shot. It should be okay, but I kind of like having the knife because it has those points and it seems to work the water into the flour more evenly because, big fingers, maybe doesn't distribute it as easily, but try and see what works. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and this just seems to work for me. So, okay. And as you can see, it's clumped. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a ball, 2 balls of dough. One is a little larger because that will be for the bottom of the pie plate. Well, let's see. Yeah, I can do that. And then another ball for the top, for the lid of the pie.
That's good to have this recipe for people who are either making double crust pies, or this will make 2 if you're just doing a bottom crust, say like a pumpkin pie or
Right, exactly. Exactly. Or you can do something like a galette, where you just roll the whole thing out and then you just fold it over. And I've done that quite frequently. It was just a nice way of making it easier. And it also looked very rustic.
We made a really good savory galette the other day because we have friends who are gardening and they had so many zucchini and tomatoes. So we did a zucchini tomato cheese.
Yeah, I need to make a quiche. This crust, you could use it for a quiche, but it's for dessert. So you wouldn't, I think, have as much sugar in it. So here we are. I may need to put in a little more on that side. So I work it a little bit. Be good to have a little bit of flour on the board to work with. So here we go. And we can put now I usually use something like this to put the pie dough in. Yeah, you can do that. Thank you. Because we want to keep the pie dough fresh. And I will put it in the refrigerator for an hour. Because you want, when you roll it out, you want it firm enough and not sticky. So we chill it for in the refrigerator for an hour. There we go. Voila. Now, I have already made some pie dough before I came.
Yeah, we got to do a lot of TV magic with baking classes. We can't make an hour go by. And
yeah, I mean, I know you would be enthralled to watch the whole process.
Sit here and chat for an hour.
Just sit there. If I could serve you cocktails or a glass of wine, I would be more than happy to do that, but we can't. So, and it's good for me to, get everything ready. A cook should be well prepared, okay? Not to waste any time. Also, a big help is know your recipe ahead of time. Look at it, time yourself, give you some little extra time if necessary. Make sure you have all your ingredients, all the tools that you need. So it's not a haphazard or a rushed experience for you. You don't want that. So now we are ready to roll out our dough.
I feel like we have the gluten-free conversation when we do these classes. Do you have any further advice if people are looking to make this gluten-free?
Yes, you can make it gluten-free. And I wish I had brought that cookbook with me. There are flours that look like flour that are gluten-free. Like,
I think King Arthur has a mix of like a
yeah,
one-to-one baking mix.
what is it, two to?
One-to-one gluten-free.
Yeah,
mix.
1-to-1 gluten-free. So you have that available. I found a beautiful cookbook on gluten-free baking, and the photographs. I like looking at photographs. Kind of gives me an idea. Okay, this is what your finished product looks like. It's an inspiration. You say, oh, I want mine to look that beautiful, and their gluten-free recipe was a combination of different flours: millet flour, oat flour, tapioca flour, ground up chia seeds, and I think something else. And it just gave it a nice nutty flavor. And then I used butter to cut in for, for the fat. I imagine you can just use shortening or, just follow the recipe. And then it also requires some buttermilk in it. And you work it, the more you worked it, the more the more malleable it was, because gluten-free crusts they break up. They don't have the elasticity like regular pie crusts because it doesn't have gluten in it. So, but I found out that if I worked it a little bit longer, in fact, the recipe suggested that to kind of like work it with bread, like bread dough, and then set it aside for a while and do it again. I didn't do that, but I allowed myself to work the pie dough with the buttermilk a little bit more and kept doing it. And I was able to roll out a nice rectangle of pie dough for a whiskey cinnamon peach cobbler.
Nice.
I made for our union for a 4th of July barbecue. I made my lavender blueberry pie, a cobbler, and a regular whiskey cinnamon peach cobbler, with a regular crust. And then I made the gluten-free crust for a peach cobbler. And it was very good.
What are you looking for?
I am looking for, oh, there it is. Yes, it's time to have my eyes checked again. And people loved it. Even the people who weren't, had no problem with gluten, they loved it. And of course, those who don't have tolerance for gluten, they really appreciated it. And again, it's just a way of acknowledging people with their needs. For a long time, one time I did make a gluten vegan crust, and I just kind of came up with the recipe on my own. I did use a gluten-free flour. I didn't like it very much. It tasted like cardboard. Maybe because it didn't have butter in it. So I didn't care for it. And it was so brittle. I did it for someone, a dear friend in Dallas for Thanksgiving. And she wanted a lavender blueberry pie, but with a vegan gluten-free crust. And that crust was so brittle that as I was transporting it to to put it in a carrier of sorts. The crust broke, and it was like somebody with the AK-47 shot my pie, and blueberry blood just went everywhere. It was quite alarming, and it's like, oh my God, somebody shot my pie.
That's more like it was a trifle the whole time, and you just crunch it up and put it in a bowl.
Well, I couldn't do that. I mean, it wasn't completely shattered, but that pie was juicy enough so that, oh my God, yes. Huh? Oh yeah, she loved it. And I just shook my head. But
said, I'll stick with gluten, thank you.
Yeah, I'll stick with gluten if you don't mind. Okay, so we done that. Now, I'm going to go to the filling. And I mean, isn't it amazing? We're already going through this really quick. And this is a very easy pie. You know, afterwards I thought, well, maybe I should do something more complicated. Like I had like a blueberry custardy roasted hazelnut kind of a tart that you use a springform pan. You know, something a little more elaborate, but it was too late. But this is fun. And I need
citrus juicer, yep.
Citrus.
I gotcha.
Thank you. I thought I had brought one. Merci. All right.
Yeah.
Now I love lemon with my blueberries. And it just kind of kicks it up. The tartness brightens it up.
I think this is good though, because I think a lot of people tune into your classes when they're intimidated by pie crust. And so this is a good way to start learning with a basic pie that has a little bit of something different and interesting.
Right. This is not a complicated pie.
Right.
And fruit pies, generally speaking, are not that difficult. If it's just a basic, you know, fruit, you just add some spices, some sugar, or whatever seasoning, and that's it. There are more complicated pies, tarts especially. But here I used half of a lemon. I don't want the lemon to be too pronounced. That's the only thing you can really taste, because the lavender is delicate. I mean, you can overdo it, but it's delicate, and so you want to be able to allow that lavender to come forward, to let its presence be known. So there we are with the juice. And now I put in a cup or to taste. Some people want their pies a little sweeter, but I put in a cup of sugar.
So while Gary's showing us how to make the filling, if anybody has any baking questions, now's the perfect time to put them into the chat. We can pass them along. It looks like we'll have a little bit of time at the end too, but if you can just keep them coming during class, we can ask them as they come in. If you have even questions not about this recipe, right? You're happy to answer other baking questions. So
yeah,
whatever you got.
And again, it's, you know, summer fruits are out there. A peach pie. Oh, I love peach pies, or peach cobbler, which a cobbler is just basically a rectangular pie. Though usually you don't put a bottom crust to it. You just have your filling, and with peaches, you can even cook your filling ahead of time, and then you put your crust on top, and you bake it that way. So here we are with the sugar. Make sure you don't have big lumps of sugar. There's been some humidity here. We've been having some rain, which is lately, which is good. We needed it. So again, and you can kind of see how I'm doing it. It's like folding in whites into a custard or something like that. Just work that sugar in. Now, it's not in the recipe, but I just wanted to give it a shot. I had thought about doing it for some time, but hadn't. But I am going to add some blueberry liqueur. And those of who've been attending my classes know that I like a little bit of spirits in my pies, if it's, the recipe calls for it, or even if it doesn't, if it's like a fruit pie or something, or like a nut pie, it's natural to add some other, a little bit of alcohol. Those who have alcohol issues, when you bake it, the alcohol goes away, just goes away and leaves the flavor of it. So when I made that pie, I used about half a cup. And let's see here. That's a third. Just a little bit more. And I wish you could be here and could smell this pie, because the lavender and the blueberry liqueur just really just brings it out. So, marinating my blueberries. And now I want to oh, it's here. I just put it aside somewhere. Put in some, oh, here it is. Good. So about a half a cup. You can use flour or you can use tapioca. So let's see here. I'm going to put half a cup. So I'm going to use tapioca. For the other pie, I use flour.
Is there a difference?
I haven't noticed. It's just some people prefer one or the other. I think some people may find when you use flour, you have to be careful, sift it so that it doesn't, you don't have clumps of flour in it. That makes sense. That's not so much of a problem with cornstarch, it seems to me. And I'm going to add a little bit more. Just a little more. And if people wonder why, it's because you don't want your pie, your fruit pie, to be so runny. I mean, you cut it and you want to serve it, the only solid thing is your crust. Everything, the filling goes, like water, and you don't want that. That's not pleasant. That's one of the challenges of doing fruit pies, is making sure that you add a thickening agent to it, because you're serving pie. We're not serving soup. So there are dessert soups, but this is not what we're doing. And again, I do kind of a fold, and also being careful not to smash the blueberries or cut them up, just gently mixing them. And now we come to the fun part. Well, it's all fun. The real magic, the magic. Of course, that smells so good. So I go like a pinch, rub it. By rubbing it, I kind of get the oils within the dried lavender. When you crush them, the oils will start coming out. They are a little bit prickly. So let's do 2 large pinches for starters, because again, I don't want to get too lavender, have it being too lavender forward.
You do want to make sure that if you're going to make this recipe, you get culinary grade lavender. There are 2 different grades. A lot of it is not suitable for eating, so you want to make sure it's labeled as culinary lavender.
Still need a little bit more, but I can taste the blueberry liqueur. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And I got this lavender from here at City Market from our bulk section. And lavender is just such a beautiful, beautiful flower, beautiful scent. And when it's used properly, it just makes something so elegant, just so elegant.
I think it's a polarizing flavor, though. I feel like you either love it in your food or you are really not a fan.
Yeah.
You don't just sort of like it.
Right, yeah. But I was surprised when the first time I made this for a competition that people really loved it.
Good.
Though I have met some folks who didn't care for it, but most folks did.
I was telling Gary before class I had a lavender lemon bar a couple days ago that was really good for that combo.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. So amazing. Okay, now we put our blueberries in. Oh, look at that.
It's a great color.
Oh,
the juice is that beautiful.
It's like jewels. Just amazing. Just amazing. When I see this, my heart just, it just makes me happy, to be able to, use the bounty of nature.
Yeah, nice local fruit.
Local fruits, organic. Celebrating the seasons. I mean, cooking should be celebrating the seasons, what is being produced during the season. Now with blueberries, you can freeze them. In fact, we do sell frozen peaches, frozen cherries, frozen blueberries. So you can have this any time of the year.
If you were going to make a pie with frozen fruit, would you defrost the fruit or would you just mix it frozen? Do you think it'll be too wet?
I think with the blueberries, that's not so much of a problem. I think I made a peach pie with frozen, and I don't think they were as thoroughly cooked as I wished they were. And So I would follow the recipe, what they say, okay? Sometimes it can be okay, but I think if it's with larger fruit, I probably would thaw them
yeah,
or have a pre-cooked filling, like peaches. But if I can, I prefer fresh fruit, by all means, if at all possible. So I always put some butter. Of course, you can, as Julia Child said, you can never do with too much butter. Well, of course you can, but you gotta have it. So that just adds a richness to the dessert. Now I'm going to roll out the lid for this pie.
Could you do this as a lattice top if you wanted?
Yes, you can. And I didn't do that this time because of time constraints. But lattice would be very beautiful. And people would be so impressed. I remember in Martha Stewart's pie and tart cookbook, which was one of my first cookbooks ever. And while I would not take financial advice from her, her sorry, Martha, you paid your dues. But that cookbook, that on pies and tarts, is like a Bible to me. Beautiful photos and great recipes. I mean, that's besides old gourmet magazines that I collected in the 80s, which really were, a major source of educating myself on just overall cooking, as well as pies, cakes, what have you. Martha Stewart's pie and tart book was just incredible. And she had a recipe for blueberry pie. And what she did, surprisingly, she didn't use lemon in it, and no lavender in it, but she made a crust of individual pastry leaves that she put on top of each other, and it just looked beautiful. Mm-hmm. And at that time in my life, I was obsessive and compulsive enough to
cut out hundreds.
Done it, yeah, by hand, without even having a little, cookie cutter. Nowadays, they have those. So you can really make it special. And you can do that with any kind of fruit pie, really.
I did that once with an apple pie and did circles and just overlap. It looked like scales.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some really beautiful things. She had a pumpkin pie where you had like leaves you bake the leaves separately, and then you would put it on top of the pumpkin pie. Look like maple leaves. It was just really beautiful. So use your imagination, be creative, make people's eyes pop out, saying, "You did this?" and say, "Darn right I did." And don't expect me to wash dishes after I made something like this.
That's what I'm for. I wash the dishes. It's a good thing about these classes. No dishes for you.
We had dishes at home.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's true. But no dishes from tonight.
Okay. I should have brought my scissors, because you don't want to have, I hate wasting dough. I really do, but you don't want to have too thick of a pie edge. Okay. So, and you can make little cookies of these.
Mm-hmm.
Just roll it out again, make, cut them into little circles or any shape, really. Dust them with sugar, cinnamon, maybe drizzle some maple syrup on it, and there you are. You have a little cookie. Okay, so I think I probably need to cut that a little bit more. And I just trim it over like that. So I can seal it. The thing about, and I've had many experiences of it, when fillings, particularly fruit fillings, overflow and you start having your oven smoking, it's not pleasant, as my husband can well attest. So we want a good seal on this. Okay, I think that's enough. So here we go, just like that. So easy, really. It's just so easy. I guess a question I have for folks is, does this look easy? Is this easier than you thought it was? Any responses to that?
Not yet, but remember that they're watching on about a 30-second delay, so.
Oh, okay. Sorry, don't mean to rush y'all. And this is where I do my crimping to make the pie crust look attractive.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how many people are watching us who are experienced bakers, how many people are newbies trying to get sort of a place to start. If you want to share your baking experience, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and this is a good time to participate in a class like this because the holidays are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Thanksgiving and the Yule or the winter holidays, but even Halloween. Also just fall with apples. And that's the thing, one of the things I just find just so wonderful about Vermont is the varieties of apples here.
Yeah.
Apples I've never even heard of. I just find that amazing.
Miriam says, when you roll out the crust, it looks easy, but when I try it, it's challenging. I'm pretty good at baked goods, but I've found pie difficult. And then somebody else commented, I think I might try this as my first pie.
Now, the person who said it was difficult, what was difficult?
I will await their response. But great to hear that someone's going to try this as their first pie. That's awesome. Good place to start.
And the thing
you have
is,
us as resources too. You can send us an email if something goes wrong and we'll answer you.
yes. And like anything, there's a learning arch or curve. The more we do, the easier it gets. I remember when I was in junior high school playing the clarinet. I mean, I sounded horrible at the beginning, like anyone would, honking away, squeaking, all those. Ugh. But the more I practice, the more I learn the basics, then the easier it got. And I have mentioned this story before. I think my father exaggerated it, but he said my mother couldn't boil water. And maybe she wasn't there when he was saying this, because if she had been, I think she would have her displeasure be known, but but maybe she told me this. She tried to make her mom's chocolate meringue pie, and it didn't turn out. So she threw it away. She made one right after that. That didn't turn out, and she did it a third time, and then it was fine. And I tell you, her pies were perfect.
So somebody's asking, does doing the edges that way prevent any spilling better than crimping with a fork?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can crimp it with a fork. The thing is to seal the lid and the bottom overhang.
Yep.
So you want to seal it. Of course, I would also highly recommend putting a aluminum foil right under, on the shelf in the oven, right underneath your pie. Okay, you could put it on the bottom of the oven, but I'm wondering if it'd be better because then it won't be as hot as if you put it on the bottom. I mean the aluminum foil. You don't want your filling to start smoking, because I've had that and it's like, oh my gosh, there is a fire.
Someone says, I always make crumb topped things so I don't have to make crusts.
Well, you can do that too. And then those are good too, because then you have a sweet, crumbly crust.
Yep.
And I just like this because it looks traditional. I love crust, but do whatever you want, you know. And again, if people think that having two separate crusts is too time consuming or too difficult, just roll out the whole dough, put in your filling if it's a fruit filling, and then just fold over.
Fold the edges up.
Yeah. Just make sure that they don't have like where the crust is very thick. Some people don't like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like the person who was having trouble rolling out says the dough tears apart, sticks to the board, sticks to the rolling pin, or I can't pick it up and move it easily.
That sounds like it may have had too much water in it, or you need to let it sit longer in the refrigerator. Okay, that's my hunch. I'm not saying she did that because I don't know. But my experience is if I don't want a gummy crust where it just sticks to me. Then that's too much flour. Too much water. One way maybe to address that, to try to rectify it, is add a little more flour and kind of work it in. Okay, work it in to where it isn't sticky, like really sticky. You don't want that. And also put it in the refrigerator maybe more than an hour if necessary. Now, I made a glaze of, I guess you can reduce it because I had doubled it beforehand, but like half a cup of heavy cream and 1 beaten egg.
And this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It produces such a beautiful
shine.
Shine to it.
And have someone asking, what about a cookie tray rather than foil? Could you put your pie plate on a sheet tray?
You can, but you have to find a pretty big cookie tray.
Yeah.
To do it. That's the hitch on that.
Someone says, you're right. I never leave it in the fridge long enough. I'm too impatient.
Oh, well, that shows that you appreciate pie.
I want to make it fast.
But it's frustrating, isn't it? That you can't work with it. So delayed gratification is even sweeter. Because then you come out with a pie that is gorgeous. You can work with it, the crust, and you can do whatever you want with it. And then you have a perfect pie. So you can do it. Just give yourself ample time. And that's fine. And you can tell people in the family who are like, hurry, hurry. It's like, do you want pie or not? So slow down. As we say in Texas, hold your horses. No need to rush. And here we are. And I do like to add a little bit of sugar on the top. Because not only then do you have a glaze, you also have a nice shine of sugar. And we can put this in the oven at 400 degrees.
I'm going to do the cookie sheet thing because I did not line our foil or our oven with foil before turning it on. And I think it'll be very hot right now to try to stick foil in the bottom.
Yes. And there we are. Doesn't that look beautiful? And now, and you bake that for 50 minutes or until you can see that the juices in the pie are really bubbly, okay? You want them to really be cooked, not burned, but so 50 minutes, and then you can check. And you don't want the pie to get too brown.
All right, I will set a timer.
Okay.
I will not remember.
Also, get a pie edge shield that will cover the edge of your pie, because the rim or the crust rim will cook faster than the rest. So you can go to any kitchen store, cooking store, and you can find a metal circle that is open in the center but covers the rim of the pie. So it will keep that from getting too cooked or get, too brown. Now we just need our ice cream. And I think vanilla ice cream would be perfect with this. Oh, this looks like it's thick. And Carrie should have the first slice.
I will wait to eat it till the class wraps up, though, because nobody wants to hear me eating into a microphone.
Oh, no, that is a wonderful sound.
Nobody likes that.
Of a happy eater.
I will give you my feedback after we wrap up, but nobody wants to be subjected to that, I think.
Well, I can give this to my hubby then. He makes nice noises when he eats.
And he's not mic'd.
That's true. He's not mic'd. And we will, of course, I'll make as much noise as I please. Let's see here. The pie is still warm. It's been several hours ago that I took it out.
Do you have recommendations over like glass pie plates, ceramic, metal?
I don't have a preference. Pyrex, I've always used Pyrex. This ceramic was given to me, 2 of them, by a friend. And I've used some metal ones. There you go, Fred. So I guess, that's a good question. And I need to see if there's any real differences between them. It's just that my mother used Pyrex.
My only thing is I like being able to see the color of the bottom crust.
Well, that is part of it for me too. I like being able to see. How is it?
How is it, Fred?
It's beautimous.
He says it's beautimous.
Beautimous.
All right, so like I said, we're ending a little early today, but we have plenty of time for questions. I know that you all are watching on a bit of a delay, so if you're like frantically typing in your question, we'll leave the chat open for a little bit. The class was recorded, like I mentioned, and will be posted at a later date. But if anybody has any questions for Gary on this recipe, on baking in general, the other thing is that if you do end up making this recipe, please send us photos. Everybody has my email, the Learn email from all of the emails that I've sent you for this class. So we would love to see photos and hear your thoughts if you end up making this recipe for yourself and your loved ones. So Gary, anything else that you would like to say as we leave the chat open?
Oh, well, I know that folks would like to just dig in right away and eat a fruit pie, but it's best to let it sit and let it cool somewhat, because you want the congealing of the fruit filling to be completed. And so at least an hour, if not, maybe a couple of hours, let the filling cool. I mean, this is still a little warm, but it has congealed. It's best not just to grab a pie right out of the oven and eat it. The taste will be fine, but you want the consistency to be proper. And here, I'm going to try this. Mm. Mm. That's good.
Say that you used about the same amount of lavender in this one versus the one that we just put in the oven.
I think so.
Kind of hit your taste level of what you like.
I may have put in a little more in this, but then I had double the recipe, so I had to put more.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the second half of what I prepared.
Have so much pie.
Yeah, you'll have pie for a good while.
That's totally fine. We have somewhere to go this weekend. We can bring our friends.
Yeah, this just is like summer. So don't delay. Get out there and again, there's nectarine, peaches, raspberries. I love raspberries. I have a raspberry rhubarb pie. That's amazing. And I saw a recipe for Italian prune plums. And when I was at a monk at Plum Village, we had Italian prune plum trees because we made prunes out of them, as well as plum jam. Beautiful peacock blue on the outside, golden yellow in the middle. Oh, they make great pies. Sugar, little bit of lemon, and nutmeg. Fabulous. But there is one that has those kind of plums plus raspberries, and I think that's the next thing I'm going to try to do at home, because I love raspberries and I love plums, and putting them together should be really good. So I hope you folks enjoyed this. Again, it's really simple. It is a little time consuming, but I mean, anything worthwhile is. And you're not going to do this every week. I mean, go ahead. Pie once a week is a wonderful thing. But to make something from scratch, it really is, it's artistic. It's an art. And to know that you can do something like this and make people happy doing it is a wonderful joy.
Yeah.
And so any questions or
just
comments?
ones for me. For the person who's asking about past recipes, shoot me an email. Let me know which ones you want. You have my email. I'm working on a way to put them up on the website, but I don't have that yet. So just shoot me an email. I can go back in the archives and find whichever one of Gary's recipes that you're looking for. I just need your email because Teams is all mostly anonymous, so I don't know who you are. But yes, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who chimed in the chat. It really makes it feel more like a class where we're all together, even when we can't be together. But I think I will go ahead. I'm not seeing any other questions come through at this point. Someone just saying, thank you, looks so good. I wish I could eat some right now. Yep.
She will, and thank y'all for coming.
Yep.
Doing these classes has been a great joy for me and my husband. And let us know, what kind of pies or tarts or other desserts you would be interested in, and share your experience of making these things, and also how people responded to it. Share the joy as well as the challenges. I mean, I've had some interesting challenges with some desserts, but it's all is all part of the joy of learning and sharing. So thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your summer and get ready for fall.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.
Take care.